welcome back everybody. I'm Kalani and we're here looking at the difference between a handpan and a steel tongue drum, also known as a tank drum, and also known by other names. Welcome back to the channel. I'm Kalani, your host and teacher, and in this video we're going to be looking at two types of instruments, idiophones, tuned percussion, melodic instruments. The one on the right is a handpan. And we'll talk about what makes it a handpan. The one on the left is a steel tongue drum. I often want to call these tank drums because that's the first name category that I learned, and that's kind of where they came from. But we've come a long way. So let's look at the difference. You just heard the difference, but let's talk about construction, notes, overtones, pitch range, playability, volume, musicality, and maybe cost, and maybe portability. And I think you can guess about the portability thing. But let's take a look. All right, so let's start with, which one should we start with? How about the one that's closest to you over here? This is, I want to show you different views of these things. So you can see here that this one is kind of, they're both kind of flying saucer shaped. They both have holes in the bottom. So this is the handpan, and the handpan has, you know, they have different numbers of notes. This one I think is a 9 note, including the middle. And I think most noticeable, as you can see, well, first of all, it's pretty big. It's a lot bigger than the steel tongue drum. The notes are also different. Unlike the tongue drum, the steel tongue drum, the notes on the handpan are hammered and molded from one continuous or contiguous piece of metal. So it's just one piece of metal. The notes are formed basically through denting it and hammering it and pounding it, and they're formed into these different shapes. So let's take one, let's just take this note on my left over here, somewhere here. And you can see that on the handpan, the note has an outline. It's got a flat surface, flat area. And the whole thing, of course, is concave. I'm sorry, convex. Convex is sticking up towards you. And then there's a note, a detent, a concave part in the middle of the note. And all the notes are a little bit different sizes. And we can play it with our hand. Let me see if I can pop up over here. Hey, we can play it with our hand like this. We can play with a mallet, which I often like to do. Mallets sound good. You can hit it. It's pretty forgiving. You can hit it sort of in the middle where the indentation is. You can hit it on this shoulder part of the note. Anywhere in there is fine. And you can get subtle differences. All right, so you hear on the handpan there's a lot of overtones, and that has to do with the fact that the metal is pretty thin, the way it's tuned. They tune usually at least 1 or 2 harmonics into these instruments. Not going to get into all that, but you can hear that it's complex. And what you're hearing in that one note is actually several notes. You hear an octave, maybe a fifth, maybe another octave. So you're hearing like a lot of stuff. That's what gives it that sort of magical harmonic ring, you know, if you will. It's a complex, kind of a magical sound, right? That's why we like the handpan. And of course the handpan is based on the steel drum, which was developed by Elie Minette in the Trinidad Tobago island area in the Caribbean. Look it up. Steel pan is what those are called. This is called a handpan. Of course, we can't really mention handpan without mentioning the hung drum, which was originally developed and based on the steel pan, but it was developed in Switzerland. And you can look that up also, hung drum. All right, so let's get over to the left side over here, and let's look at the steel tongue drum. Now this is a Zenko steel tongue drum. It has a tiny, well actually this is a mounting hole in the bottom, so it doesn't actually have a hole in the bottom like the handpan. But you can see it's still got that kind of flying saucer shape. And similar in it, like the handpan, they both have this sort of rubber ring around the edge. And in this case, we've got, again, about 9 notes. Is it 9? Yes. And you can see on the steel tongue drum, it's different. The notes are cut, and at first I'm sure they were cut using different tools. Now I think they're pretty much either laser cut or water cut, water jet, and they're very precise. And they're simple. They're similar to this instrument that I've got over here I'm going to show you in a second, which is what we call a tongue drum, a wooden tongue drum, and it's made in much the same way. And the size of the metal, we can call these tongues or tines, they determine the pitch. Now it's not tuned similarly to the handpan. It's just tuned by essentially cutting the right amount of material out of the surface. And unlike the handpan, there's no denting involved, there's no hammering. So it's usually just one piece of metal that's cut into a bunch of smaller pieces, and the sound is a lot more uniform, we could call it. It's not as loud usually. You can play them with hands and mallets. And both of these come in lots of different tuning configurations, different numbers of notes, different scales, different central keys, like D minor, A minor, G minor, whatever it is. There's lots of different styles out there. And they're not all the same, right? Some of them have a little bit fancier cut out patterns. The notes they just look different. Some are square, some are rounded like this one. But they're all basically the same type of instrument, in as much as the metal is thicker than it is on the handpan. It does not require the same amount of hammering and tuning and denting and all that. As a result, they are less expensive. So let's look at cost. I'm going to give you guys general ranges, but let's say, generally speaking, a steel tongue drum like this one is going to be in the several hundreds of dollars and up. Maybe even as low as $200 up to say $400 or $500, maybe a little more, depending on the design and the manufacturer. Handpans, as of right now, I don't know if you could touch anything good, or let's say handmade, for below $2,000, maybe $1,500, but more like $2,000, $2,500, maybe up to $3,000. So that's what we're looking at in terms of money. Now, there are exceptions to that. You can get handpans now, factory-made handpans made overseas, in the hundreds of dollars. But I'm talking industry standard, professional level instruments, couple thousand, few hundred on the steel tongue drum. All right. Transportation-wise, of course, the handpan is much bigger. It's pretty big. So you're gonna, and they do come with cases and things. This one comes with a nice case, soft bag, kind of backpack style. Steel tongue drum, much smaller, easier to transport. Especially if you get down to this side. Now here's another one. This is, they call it the Baby Zenko. And this one is in a D minor tuning. All right, really nice. And so you have some options there. You know, you can go with a smaller steel tongue drum. I even have one that's super tiny. I do want to show you this. This is the traditional wooden tongue drum, and this would be kind of what, you know, the steel tongue drum is based on. So this is the older instrument here, the wooden one. And this is called a tinkatong. It's made by the same company that makes some of the other instruments that I use. But that's the wood version, essentially, of the steel tongue drum. Okay, I think I covered everything I said I would at the beginning of this video. Both of these instruments, by the way, are made by Metal Sounds out of France, and they are available through weplaywelltogether.com. And you can look them up, weplaywelltogether, because they do, .com. All right? Thanks for watching, everybody. What do you guys think? Nice to have cool instruments for sure. Do you guys have a handpan? What key? Where did you get it? What did you pay? What do you want to get next? Are you a steel tongue drum fan? There's so many available now. Do you have a favorite one? Do you have any tips for our viewers? If you do, leave them down in the comments. If you'd like to reach me and connect with me personally, you can message me if you're a patron at patreon.com/Kalani. You can also go to Kalani Music and send me email message from there. Thanks for watching. Enjoy your handpan or steel tongue drum when you get your hands on one. We'll see you in a future lesson.